Welcome to our channel, World Inheritance, in the first part of the story of the occupied land from 1948 to 2023, which is Palestine. Come together, let us learn about who Palestine is. Palestine is a geographical region located in Western Asia, extending from the Mediterranean Sea to the Jordan Valley. The area of Palestine is about 27,000 square kilometers, and its population is about 14 million people, of whom about 5.3 million Palestinians live in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and about 8.7 million Palestinians living in the diaspora because the occupation seized their homes and land. Many prophets and religious figures lived in Palestine, such as Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Christ. Palestine possesses many natural resources, including oil, natural gas, phosphate, and limestone. It also enjoys a moderate climate, which makes it a suitable area for agriculture and industry. Palestine is located in an important strategic location, linking Asia, Africa, and Europe. It is also located on the international trade route, which connects the East and the West. Palestine is famous for its olive trees, which are the main agricultural crops in the Palestinian territories, where they are mostly grown to produce olive oil. It is estimated that olive production represents 57% of the cultivated land in the occupied Palestinian territories, where there were 7.8 million fruit-bearing olive trees in 2011. Palestine has been suffering for decades from the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which has led to many casualties on both sides. This conflict led to the division of Palestine into areas governed by Israel and areas governed by the Palestinian Authority. The Israeli occupation constitutes the greatest challenge facing Palestine, as the occupation controls most of the Palestinian lands and practices blatant violations of Palestinian human rights. This occupation led to many casualties occurred on both sides, and it caused the destruction of the Palestinian infrastructure. Because of this occupation, Palestine suffers from high levels of poverty and unemployment, which negatively affects the lives of Palestinians. Palestine suffers from high levels of corruption, which hinders economic and social development. History of Jerusalem before birth. Who was the first to live in Jerusalem? The history of Jerusalem goes back to the 4th millennium BC, making it one of the oldest cities in the world. The city has been known by many different names throughout its history, including Jebus, named after the Jebusites, who were the first to settle the city in Bronze Age. City of David, named after King David, who made it the capital of the unified kingdom of Israel in the 10th century BC. Ursalim, the name given to the city by the Canaanites, meaning city of peace. Jerusalem, the name given by the Jews to the city, and it means the house of God. The Jebusites are a Canaanite people from the south of the Levant during the 3rd millennium BC. The Jebusites lived in the Jerusalem area only, and the Jebusites are a Canaanite tribe. The Jebusites built under the leadership of their king Melchizedek, called the city of Jerusalem Shalem, which is the name of the God of peace among the Canaanites. It was later corrupted to Jerusalem, which means mountain of peace. It was also called Jebus in reference to the Jebusites, and after that they settled in the region for a long time until the arrival of the children of Israel in the 12th century BC. The city of Jerusalem at that time was a small city surrounded by a wall, and the Jebusites controlled it. The children of Israel were able to occupy the city of Jerusalem from the Jebusites during the reign of the prophet of God David, and the city became the capital of the Israeli kingdom. Despite hence, the Jebusites continued to live in Jerusalem alongside the Israelites, and their culture and language were assimilated into the Hebrew culture. They were Semitic Canaanite peoples. They were farmers and shepherds. They practiced the worship of multiple gods. They founded the city of Jerusalem. After the death of the prophet of God, David, the Israelites were divided into a section in the north of Jerusalem, which was the section that deviated from God's commands, and the section of the kingdom of Judah, which was the section that worshipped God. Assyrian rule of Jerusalem. The Assyrians were a Semitic people who lived in Mesopotamia. They established a powerful empire that extended from Egypt to Iran in the 8th century BC, led by Sennacherib. In the 8th century BC, the Assyrian Empire invaded the northern kingdom of Israel, defeating the Israeli army at the Battle of Carchemish in 722 BC. Birth. In 701 BC, the Assyrian Empire invaded the kingdom of Judah, the remaining Jewish state in Palestine. King Hezekiah successfully defended the city, and was able to push the Assyrians to retreat. Sennacherib besieged the kingdom of Judah in Jerusalem for 2 years and was unable to succeed in entering it, but he was able damage to it. However, the Assyrians defeated the kingdom of Judah again in 586 BC, and completely destroyed the city of Jerusalem. They expelled the Jews from the city and took them captive to Babylon. However, the Assyrians defeated the kingdom of Judah again in 586 BC, and completely destroyed the city of Jerusalem. They expelled the Jews from the city and took them as captives to Babylon. The Babylonians completely destroyed the city and expelled the Jews from Jerusalem. In Babylon for about 70 years. The Persians ruled Jerusalem. The Persians ruled Jerusalem for 206 years, from 538 BC to 332 BC. In 538 BC, the Persians conquered the Babylonian Empire, which was ruling Jerusalem at the time. The Persians allowed the Jews to return to Jerusalem and granted them self-rule. The Jews rebuilt the city after their return from Babylonian exile. They began rebuilding the Second Temple in Jerusalem, which was completed in 515 BC and introduced the modern Hebrew language. Jerusalem flourished during Persian rule. It has become a center for the Jewish religion, and has become home to a number of holy places. Talk about demolishing or building the Temple of Solomon does not represent only the Jews. Throughout history, this stubbornness has not been narrated by the Jews, and geographically, there is no such thing as a temple in Palestine in particular, nor in the land of the Arabs in general. With the Temple of Solomon once and for all, we will learn later about the reasons for Israel's occupation of the Palestinian land. After and then, Alexander the Great took control of Jerusalem in 332 BC, having defeated the Persian Empire at the Battle of Gaza. This event marked the end of Persian rule in Jerusalem. At that time, Jerusalem was an important city in the Middle East, and a center of religion and commerce. The Holy Temple, which was considered the holiest place in the Jewish world, was located in the city. When Alexander the Great entered Jerusalem, the city welcomed him as a savior from Persian rule. Alexander treated the locals kindly and allowed them to practice their religion freely. Despite this, Alexander began to spread Greek culture in Jerusalem. He created a new temple dedicated to Apollo, the Greek sun god, and built many other buildings in the Greek style. This led to conflict between the inhabitants of Jerusalem, who wished to preserve their culture and religion, and Alexander the Great, who wanted to spread Greek culture throughout his empire. In the end, the Jews were able to maintain their religion and culture, but they had to adapt to the new Greek culture.